There's a scene at the end of the Stranger Things finale that honestly really pissed me off. And it has nothing to do with who lived, who died, plot holes, that kind of thing. It's about how they treated Mike Wheeler. So spoilers ahead for the Stranger Things finale, you've been warned. So after they defeat Vecna and the Mind Flayer, we see Mike, Dustin, Max, Will, and Lucas playing D&D. The party kills Strahd, they got cheers from the townsfolk, and they got the gold. Mike then closes the book and declares the end of the campaign. In 1983, that was the perfect ending. You've won, you leveled up, you ordered pizza, and you watched a movie on your home VCR. It was great. But then Max looks at Mike and says, "Aren't you supposed to be a master storyteller?" She wanted more. She wanted emotional depth, closure, and a performance. And that moment right there, that's what's killing D&D today. Because here's the thing. Mike is a great DM. He gave them exactly what D&D was supposed to be. But somewhere between like 1983 and today, the game changed. And I didn't really realize how much it changed until I started looking for a group. Now, to kind of understand how D&D is played today, I started listening to actual play podcasts, watching clips on YouTube, and that's how I learned what modern D&D is supposed to look like today. So after some time, I decided to look for a group, but I caught myself thinking, I hope the DM does voices. I hope there's a deep story. I hope that the DM weaves my backstory into the campaign. I mean, if you think about it, I was looking for a show, not playing D&D. And then someone asked locally if I wanted to DM their group, and I said no because I'm too new, I'm still learning. But then I started planning anyway for some reason. I'd have everyone write backstories, I'd weave them into the campaign, I'd practice voices, and who knows, maybe even add sound effects or lighting effects. I mean, I was building a freaking podcast before I even said yes to this group. It's insane. So where did this come from? Why isn't killing the dragon, getting the gold, and leveling up good enough anymore? It's because right now we're consuming D&D as entertainment. And today I still listen to actual play podcasts because they're a lot of fun. The players are acting, they're crying, they're laughing. It's really compelling storytelling. But here's what we all forget. They're performing for an audience. That's their job. If they played D&D the way I did in 1983, talking about rules and crunching numbers, eating chips and pizza, nobody would subscribe. The show wouldn't exist. And you know what? For a podcast, that's great. That's what makes them so good at what they do. They're professionals creating entertainment and getting views and listeners. But the problem is many of us bring that performance mindset into our basements and around the table. We judge our DM who's just trying to run a fun game. We compare them against professional voice actors with editors and sound designers. So after watching Stranger Things last night, I started thinking about this. Am I the only one who is noticing this? And I'm not. And I actually found a name for it. The D&D community calls it the Mercer Effect. And it's basically, if you don't know what that is, it's where players walk into their first session or what have you, expecting the campaign and the DM to be like the podcast they listen to. I mean, from a guy coming back to D&D after 40 years, this is a real shift in how we approach the game. And I think it's a bad shift. And here's why. So back to Stranger Things, Max complains and sits back demanding that Mike entertain her. And that's the toxic side of all of this. We put all this pressure on the DMs to perform, but here's the deal. If you want your DM to be a master storyteller, well, you've got to give them something to work with. The reason the actual play podcasts are so compelling is that the players are incredible. They role play really, really well. They take risks. They're engaging. It's collaborative. Both the DM and the players are performing. They're theatrical. And that makes it amazing for a podcast. But for many, you can't come to the table, your campaign, wait for your turn to roll a dice, and then complain that the story isn't deep enough or the DM doesn't really do what Matt Mercer does. You can't act like Max and demand the DM entertain you. It's a two-way street. And here's the other thing that nobody I see is talking about. You don't have to perform. And listen, if your table is like Critical Role, that is awesome. I'd love to hear it. But you don't need to play that way. I mean, for me, I, for one, don't like role-playing. I just never liked it. When I play in the third person, and I say things like, my character asks the night watchman about the goblin attacks, that kind of thing. And you know what? That's okay. It's okay for you, it's okay for me. And maybe that's the real message here. If you just want to hang out, roll dice, have fun, and play the game without all the theatrics, that's just as valid, because that's what D&D used to be. Now look, I totally get it. The Duffer Brothers needed that scene to show where everyone ended up in life, right? But they chose to do it by having Max shame Mike for not being theatrical enough. And if you think about it, the Duffer Brothers wrote the Matt Mercer Effect directly in the script. They killed Strahd, they got their treasure, everyone went home happy. All the other players clapped and said, hey, great campaign, Mike, because it was. Mike is a great DM. So if you're playing this weekend, remember this. You're not on a podcast. There's no audience. You don't need to perform. If you kill the dragon, get the gold, and high-five your buddies, that's a win. And don't let anyone tell you otherwise. So in the comments, tell me if you feel the pressure to perform at the table. If you're a DM especially. And as a player, do you expect DMs to be Matt Mercer? Or are you just there for the fun, the friendships, the treasure, the pizza, etc.? Go ahead, leave me a note in the comments and subscribe for more D&D goodness.